Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. Everyone you meet knows something you don't know, but need to know. Learn from them. I must also have a dark side, if I am to be whole. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Sometimes you have to do something unforgivable, just to be able to go on living. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become. What you resist persists. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. A particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror. As a rule, a beautiful woman is a terrible disappointment. We discover ourselves through others. We don't really heal anything. We simply let it go. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. The creative mind plays with the object it loves. Find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will develop next. Nobody can fall so low unless he has a great depth. Where love stops, power begins, and violence, and terror. Life is crazy and meaningful at once. Simple things are always the most difficult. What we lack is intensity of life. The bigger the crowd, the more negligible the individual. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. The ability to ask questions is the greatest resource in learning the truth. Normality is a fine ideal for those who have no imagination. Wisdom accepts that all things have two sides. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Shame is a soul-eating emotion. The highest, most decisive experience is to be alone with one's own self. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The difference between a good life and a bad life is how well you walk through the fire. Hurry is not of the devil. Hurry is the devil. When you are up against a wall, put down roots like a tree until clarity comes from deeper sources to see over that wall and grow. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. The greatest sin is to be unconscious. Nature is not matter only. She is also a spirit. Individuation is to divest the self of false wrappings. Children are educated by what the grown-up is and not by his talk. One finds one's destiny on the path one takes to avoid it. Trust that which gives you meaning and accept it as your guide. What happens after death is so unspeakably glorious that our imagination and our feelings do not suffice to form even an approximate conception of it. The dissolution of our time-bound form in eternity brings no loss of meaning. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. I don't believe there is a God. I know there is a God. Just as we tend to assume that the world is as we see it, we naively suppose that people are as we imagine them to be. We don't so much solve our problems as we outgrow them. We add capacities and experiences that eventually make us bigger than the problems. All true things must change, and only that which changes remains true. But if you have nothing at all to create, then perhaps you create yourself. Active imagination requires a state of reverie, halfway between sleep and waking. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. Shadow work is the path of the heart warrior. The greatest potential for growth and self-realization exists in the second half of life. One must be able to let things happen. The pendulum of the mind alternates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. A man cannot stand a meaningless life. God enters through the wound. Called or not, God is always there. Perhaps I myself am the enemy who needs to be loved. Religion is a defense against the experience of God. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. All fanaticism is repressed out. To confront a person with their own shadow is to show them their own light. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you. Had I left those images hidden in the emotions, I might have been torn to pieces by them. The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. Nothing affects the life of a child so much as the unlived life of its parent. The unexpected and the incredible belong in this world. Only then is life whole. Nothing worse could happen to one than to be completely understood. Midlife is the time to let go of an overdominant ego and to contemplate the deeper significance of human existence. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. Our unconscious is the key to our life's pursuits. Individualization does not shut one out from the world, but gathers the world to oneself. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. We deem those happy who from the experience of life have learnt to bear its ills without being overcome by them. Life calls not for perfection, but for completeness. If a man knows more than others, he becomes lonely. I would rather be whole than good. Life is a luminous pause between two mysteries that are yet one. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. The whole point of Jesus' life was not that we should become exactly like him, but that we should become ourselves in the same way he became himself. Jesus was not the great exception, but the great example. Summoned or not, the God will come. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. The greater the contrast, the greater the potential. Conflict exists strictly as an opportunity to raise our consciousness. If our religion is based on salvation, our chief emotions will be fear and trembling. If our religion is based on wonder, our chief emotion will be gratitude. We have forgotten the age-old fact that God speaks chiefly through dreams and visions. The most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. The world of gods and spirits is truly nothing but the collective unconscious inside me. We cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning, for what in the morning was true will in evening become a lie.